7 signs of diabetes at night, and 8 tips to improve without cutting carbs. Check out this video's interesting proposal. Besides the signs, I'll also share how to improve. Remember, this video doesn't replace medical advice. Promise you won't stop any meds just because an endocrinologist shared these tips. This is just to complement and guide you in managing diabetes. Let's look at the signs and symptoms. The number one symptom at night is waking up to urinate. You used to wake up once or not at all, but now your pattern has changed. You're waking up 3 or 4 times a night to urinate. This is a warning sign that your blood sugar might be high. This sign occurs when blood sugar levels start to exceed 180 mg/dl or 10 mol/L. Some countries use this measure, so I always provide both. And why does this happen? Because the kidneys start eliminating glucose to compensate. With glucose, water is also eliminated, so you wake up to pee. It's not just a slight urge that passes quickly. No, you wake up needing to urinate a significant amount. Compare this to your usual pattern, as many already wake at night. I, for example, wake up 3-4 times nightly to use the bathroom. I've had all the tests, and I'm not diabetic. So nighttime waking doesn't always mean diabetes, but pattern changes are a warning sign. The second nighttime diabetes sign is obstructive sleep apnea. What is that? Often when you're sleeping, you feel suffocated and sometimes wake up gasping for air. This isn't just a feeling. In obstructive sleep apnea, the oxygen flow can be interrupted, causing low oxygen levels, which we call hypoxia. This makes you wake up struggling to breathe, so it's not just a sensation. Obstructive sleep apnea is directly linked to increased blood sugar levels. It can even cause high blood pressure, as it affects our body in various ways. Ask someone who sleeps in your house, or if anyone has mentioned, whether you snore loudly. Excessive snoring is often related to obstructive sleep apnea. If you wake up feeling suffocated, get it checked. Sleep apnea has many metabolic consequences. One of these is increased blood sugar levels. Often patients take meds and follow all steps, but this change still raises their blood sugar. So pay close attention to your sleep. Nighttime is extremely important. Sign number 3 is burning in the legs at night. Many report increased sensitivity with sheets, which may indicate diabetic neuropathy. Diabetes' most common complication. Did you know 50% of diabetics may have this nerve alteration? It can manifest as increased sensitivity and burning. Some say putting on sheets causes that sensitivity, so you need to be very careful. You won't always feel heat or cold in your legs. If ignored, it can progress to loss of sensation over time. Have you heard diabetics have higher amputation rates? Often, diabetic neuropathy leads to wounds, which, due to impaired healing and bacterial defense, can spread, potentially leading to amputation in extreme cases. Diabetic neuropathy is serious and requires attention. You can notice it better at night. Why does it happen? High blood sugar can damage nerves, altering sensitivity. As a diabetes specialist, I want to emphasize that these changes can occur even with slightly elevated blood sugar levels. For instance, 110 milligrams per deciliter, or 6.1 millimoles per liter for those using that measurement. So we're dealing with a narrow range here. It's crucial to pay attention, even if these values are considered pre-diabetic when fasting. This just shows how serious diabetes really is. Sign number 4. If you're waking up at night sweating, shaking, with a damp pillow, excessive sweating, and heart palpitations, it could indicate low blood sugar, known as hypoglycemia. What's the definition of hypoglycemia? It's when blood sugar levels drop below 70 milligrams per deciliter or 3.9 millimoles per liter. And how does this relate to diabetes? You might be wondering. Well, it's the opposite extreme. Because in the early stages, even with prediabetes, we can experience what's called reactive hypoglycemia. If you eat a carb-heavy meal at night, your pancreas responds by producing even more insulin. Since the body's already struggling with insulin at the prediabetic stage, it can lead to reactive hypoglycemia. So even without diabetes, you should get your blood sugar levels tested. If you have diabetes, be careful, as many medications can cause hypoglycemia. It's not just insulin. People often think only insulin causes low blood sugar, But many meds, even those affecting insulin production, can do this. So what do I suggest? If you're waking up sweaty and shaky with the symptoms I mentioned, also check your heart rate and blood sugar levels during this time. Note the results and show them to your doctor at your next visit. This can be helpful in adjusting your treatment plan. This condition can cause rebound high blood sugar. What's that? Blood sugar spikes, and you wake up with high levels. So you need to be very careful. Sign number 5 at night is interesting. Diabetes may increase restless leg syndrome. Have you heard of it? I'm pretty sure you have. But many people misunderstand this syndrome. So what defines restless leg syndrome? It's involuntary movements that worsen at night and when resting. It's not leg movement from anxiety as many think. So it's a bit different. Anxiety-related movement isn't linked to diabetes, but RLS is. If you have it, check your blood sugar levels, okay? It gets worse at night and when resting. And sign number 6 is waking up tired. When your blood sugar levels are high, you often can't get restful sleep. It feels like you didn't sleep well, like your body didn't rest enough. Even if you slept for hours, you might sleep 8 hours and still wake up tired. It's as if you've just run a marathon. Many patients report this, waking up with heavy legs. Because of altered blood sugar, your body can't use that sugar for energy in cells and muscles. So you'll wake up tired and need to check your blood sugar levels. And sign number 7, before I share tips on how to avoid this. Sign number 7 is excessive thirst. Why? To compensate for rising blood sugar levels, one response is to increase fluid intake. This is specifically to try and improve these levels. If you never used to wake up for water, but now you're waking up 2 or 3 times, that change in pattern could be a sign of diabetes. If you have these symptoms, even with a recent blood sugar test, you should get retested. In some cases of type 1 diabetes, for example, a patient may have had normal test results just months ago, but as it's an autoimmune disease that attacks the pancreas beta cells, which produce insulin, blood sugar levels can rise rapidly. Often, there aren't many signs before frequent urination, thirst, and fatigue set in. Sometimes this happens very quickly, in about 15 days, for example. Even so, you need to be evaluated if you're showing signs and symptoms. Now, how can we prevent this? How can we reduce blood sugar spikes and help our body handle glucose better? These tips differ from many I've shared before, so it's crucial that you watch till the end because I've done a literature review today to bring you the most up-to-date information. Well, there are 8 tips. Tip number 1, which is quite interesting, is about resistant starch. Ever heard that putting rice in the fridge makes it a better carb? You probably thought it was nonsense, and so did I, before seeing the studies. But here's the thing. If you cook rice, prepare it and put it in the refrigerator, then eat it the next day. For example, the starch structure gets modified, it'll become resistant starch. This reduces the rice's glycemic impact. Interesting, isn't it? Studies show it benefits gut health and digestion. If you're diabetic, it's worth refrigerating rice. Many ask, can I eat large amounts? Will this alone work? No, folks, of course not. I'm talking about the same portion size. If you compare the same amount of rice to rice with resistant starch, you'll have a lower blood sugar spike with this option, but it's not a cure, as some might claim, okay? So if you want rice, try this tip to help control blood sugar. Surprisingly, there's scientific evidence for this. Curious, right? Subscribe for more tips like this. Like the video for more interesting tips. Tip number 2 to reduce nighttime blood sugar spikes is to change the order of your food intake. For diabetics, to avoid blood sugar spikes, ideally start with vegetables due to their fiber content, then move on to proteins and fats. Lastly, if you want carbs like rice, potato, or pasta, eat them last to reduce glycemic impact. Many people eat just pasta or rice alone, which is common but not ideal. Following this order greatly benefits blood sugar control, avoiding glucose spikes. I know some might say it's better to eat carbs first. That may be your preference, but let's not discuss taste here. But for health, especially regarding diabetes, it's better to do this, as the consequences of diabetes are quite serious. Isn't that right? Tip number 3 to avoid blood sugar spikes is about vinegar. Many people talk about apple cider vinegar. Can it be apple cider vinegar? Yes, but other vinegars with acetic acid are also being studied for improving carbohydrate digestion. I'm not talking about drinking pure vinegar, as that can damage your teeth, but adding it to salads. Studies show that people who consumed vinegar, like putting it on salads, had an additional benefit. Interesting, isn't it? I said this video would have new tips with scientific backing, different from the usual ones you're used to. So what's the recommended dose of vinegar? 60 milliliters per salad. Again, don't drink it straight. Be careful with, alright, you won't consume all that vinegar, but they found people who used 60 milliliters on salads got this benefit. If you're in the US using ounces, that's about 2 ounces of vinegar. Look at acetic acid's benefits. I love it, especially balsamic vinegar. How about you? Which vinegar do you prefer? Share in the comments. I know many folks love apple cider vinegar. Tip 4 to avoid nighttime glucose spikes without cutting carbs. Avoid pure carbs. For instance, many people like eating bananas before bed. If you do, add some fiber or protein, like with potatoes. If you're gonna eat bread, you don't have to give it up entirely, but add some protein, like eggs, to prevent blood sugar spikes. Tip number 5 to avoid glucose spikes is to watch out for high glycemic index carbs. If you like cornflakes, white bread, or even rice, as I mentioned, try swapping them for whole grains. They're tasty too. Whole grain bread, seeded bread, and swapping rice for sweet potato, or even regular potatoes, will help you better absorb these carbs and avoid that blood sugar spike. So choose carbs with a lower glycemic index. The same goes for fruits. Many say fruits are off limits for diabetics, but that's not true. You need to check the glycemic index and know your foods. This is where diabetes knowledge comes in. For example, swap a banana for a guava. If you want to eat a mango, go for strawberries instead. Look for options with fewer carbs and a lower glycemic index. This will help you avoid blood sugar spikes, okay? Apples are great to eat before bed. They prevent nighttime sugar spikes as they're rich in fiber and provide vitamins, nutrients, and minerals. They can even help with cholesterol due to pectin, a soluble fiber. There's lots of research on this, so it's crucial to choose foods with a lower glycemic index. Number 6 is about fiber intake, and I'll mention the amount here. A US study found that Americans consume about 15 grams of fiber daily on average. For better blood sugar control, aim for 30 to 35 grams of fiber daily at least, okay? This is the minimum, not the maximum amount. Americans consume less than half the recommended fiber. Fiber is crucial for stabilizing blood sugar and increasing satiety. An easy way to boost fiber intake is by adding seeds, such as chia seeds or flax seeds, but also other fiber-rich foods. Not just vegetables, but foods specifically designed to help with this. Before bed, I like to eat yogurt with a teaspoon, 5 grams of chia seeds. This small amount helps me meet my daily fiber intake, greatly benefiting metabolism and blood sugar levels. Tip 7. Another way to reduce glycemic impact is swapping wheat flour for almond, coconut, chickpea, or oat flour. Many people think, oh, but I heard oatmeal isn't good for diabetics. And yes, that's true. Oats are mostly sugars and carbs, but I'm comparing it to wheat flour. People often make recipes, but don't know which flour to use to lower glycemic impact. You can make this swap. I personally don't like floury foods much, so I prefer to avoid them. If you must eat them, it's worth swapping wheat flour for others I mentioned. This will reduce the glycemic impact. Tip number 8 for controlling blood sugar levels. And this one's really interesting too. A recent study on meals and glycemic impact found that people who ate carbs spread throughout the day. They responded better than those who consumed concentrated carbs. For instance, they compared eating 60 grams of carbs at night to consuming small amounts throughout the day. These people were able to handle the carbohydrates better, showing that if you avoid carbs all day and eat them at night when you typically crave them more, due to the circadian rhythm and cortisol levels, many people report feeling a stronger urge to eat carbs at night. The study found that those who ate carbs mainly at night handled them worse. This suggests spreading carbs throughout the day is better for blood sugar, even with the same total calories. Did you find these tips helpful? What about signs and symptoms? On a scale of 1, 10, how would you rate this video? If it's a 10, I'll make more videos like this. Next, I'll suggest a video about foods that don't raise blood sugar. Now that you know these tips, it's crucial to learn about nutrition too. I discuss the best and worst foods for diabetics, ones to be careful with. Click here to watch that video. Take care. See you next time.